My son made me hate myself for the first time in my life. I'm 34 and my son Reese is 16. He's not mine biologically. He's my older brother Donovan's kid. Donovan died in a car accident when Reese was 8 months old. The mother wasn't in the picture. She'd made it clear she didn't want to be a mom and left right after the birth. I was 18, just about to start college, and suddenly I had a baby. My parents were too old and tired to raise another kid, so I took him. I dropped out of school. I worked 3 jobs. I gave up everything to make sure he had a good life. I never told him about Donovan because I didn't want him to feel different. I was going to tell him when he turned 18. Yesterday, I picked him up from basketball practice, and he wouldn't even look at me, just threw his bag in the back and crossed his arms. I asked if everything was okay. He said fine, but it clearly wasn't. His jaw was tight, and he kept looking out the window like I wasn't even there. I tried to make conversation, asked about practice, about his game this weekend, if he wanted to grab burgers. He said no to everything. When we got home, he went straight to his room. Didn't even take off his shoes, which he knows drives me crazy. I thought maybe he failed a test or got into it with his coach. I made spaghetti and meatballs for dinner because they're his favorite, and I thought maybe food would help. I called him down. He came to the top of the stairs, looked at the table, and said he wasn't hungry. I told him I made his favorite. He said he doesn't have a favorite anything anymore. That's when I knew something was really wrong. I asked him what was going on. He came down the stairs and stood in the doorway, and the way he looked at me made my stomach drop, like I was a stranger. He asked me when I was planning to tell him the truth. I asked what truth. He said the truth about Donovan. My blood went cold. I asked him what he meant. He pulled out his phone and showed me a message from my Aunt Celeste. She'd sent him a whole essay about how proud Donovan would be of the man he's becoming, how grateful she was that I stepped up after his dad died, and how hard it must be not having his real parents around. She thought he knew. She'd assumed I'd told him years ago. Reese asked me if it was true, if Donovan was his real dad. I couldn't lie to his face, so I told him yes. I explained that Donovan died when he was a baby, that I'd raised him because there was no one else, that I did it because I loved him. He just stared at me for what felt like forever. Then he asked why I never told him. I said I wanted to wait until he was older. He lost it, started yelling about how I stole his identity from him, how I made him call me dad when I wasn't, how he could have known about his real father, could have learned about him, could have visited his grave, but I kept it all from him, how I'm just some liar who played pretend for 16 years. He said every birthday, every Father's Day, every time he told me he loved me, it was all based on a lie. He called me selfish for keeping him instead of giving him to a real family. He said I probably just wanted someone to take care of me when I got old. Then he said the part that broke me. He said he wishes I'd just left him in the system, that he would have rather grown up with strangers than with someone who lied to him his whole life, that at least then he would have known who he really was. He said I stole 16 years from him and he's never going to forgive me. And he said he wishes I'd died in that crash instead of Donovan, because at least Donovan would have told him the truth. He went to his room and slammed the door. I just stood there. I couldn't breathe. The spaghetti was getting cold on the table. My hands were shaking. For 16 years, I'd given up everything. My education, my 20s, every relationship that couldn't handle me having a kid, my dreams. I'd done it all without hesitation because I loved him, because he was family. I stood in the kitchen staring at the meatballs on his plate. I'd never questioned what I did. Not when I was 19 and exhausted from night shifts. Not when I was 25 watching my friends travel while I packed school lunches. Not when I was 30 realizing I'd never have my own life. But standing there, I finally let myself think the thing I'd never allowed before. Maybe he was right. Maybe I did steal his life from him. Subscribe if you think I shouldn't give up on life.